So our last section of the conference is the program delivery stream. So you'll hear from project managers and architects on how to deliver transformation programs successfully. I am thrilled to introduce our next speakers, Jasmine O'Reilly and Arielle Despal, who have successfully managed many projects for strategic architects. They have a warm connection with our clients and keep the project team to account, ensuring cost, time, and quality measures are adhered to. Jasmine O'Reilly is a leader in the project management space, and she has over 15 years of experience. Jasmine has established herself as a leading voice in project and change management, known for her innovative people-first approach. She founded the Outlier Group, formerly Level Up Consulting, with a vision to challenge traditional consulting models, putting empathy, boldness, and tangible results at the heart of everything they do. Today, she'll share insights from her journey, including how her maverick mindset has helped drive transformational change across sectors like healthcare, IT, and not-for-profits. Arielle Despal has achieved success in the project management space, building a reputation over several years, solving challenges that are presented during projects. I will now hand over to Arielle as she has a discussion with Jazz on transformation through project delivery. So over to you.
Thanks, Jackie. What an introduction. And it's been wonderful to listen to the speakers and Nige and Andrew. It's been really great. Well, Jazz, welcome. Yes,
Thank
your
you for having me.
Yeah, this is very
15
exciting.
years. I think I started when I was 10. Right, I'm only 25. No, I'm joking.
That's what I meant. That's what I meant.
Thank you, Jackie.
Yeah, so I'm hoping as someone that doesn't have quite that much experience, we can, bounce ideas off each other and really listen to what you can bring to this space. Alrighty, Jazz, let's jump right in. We'll be diving into the exciting world of project management and digital transformation with the focus of finding the balance, specifically how to navigate technical demands of a fast-paced evolving environment while staying true to a people-first approach. So, Jazz, how do you balance the technical demands of digital transformation with a people-centered approach in your projects and programs?
Excellent question. I'm really glad that you introduced this by saying the exciting world of project management. I mean, I love it. I'm sure there's lots of people out there who do, but it can be seen as a bit of a burden. But it's so critical when it comes to delivery that you have, a project manager and a project team who really get it. The way I like to describe it, I went a very long time of saying that a good PM is the bridge between the business and our technical teams to make sure that the project is delivered. But I think a better analogy is perhaps that of the seesaw, and this is where the balance comes in, Arielle, where if you think of there's the two sides of the coin and you never want either of those crashing, it's the PM who stands in the middle that sort of keeps the balance between the two. And how we do that, particularly with a people first project management approach is, well, I mean, it's in the title, right? We make sure that people are involved in every single step of the way. And by people, we really mean the people that are impacted by change. So often when we're doing, strategic work or even architecture work, it's with stakeholders who potentially sit at that very top of a project food chain, the sponsor types. But when we are executing and implementing, we need to bring everybody on the journey and make them feel like they're being heard and listened to. And of course, it's a two-way street with that communication. So feeding that back into our architecture teams and our technical teams to make sure they're designing something that is absolutely fit for purpose for those who are going to be impacted by the change. So that's kind of us working the middle of the seesaw, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I can see that. So definitely a people approach in your leadership and as you're building your projects. That's awesome. So based on that, do you have an example you can provide for us, maybe some experience where you've had to balance that expectation of being quite technical and people focused, and how did you ensure harmony amongst all your stakeholders?
Yes, I love this. So anyone that's worked with project professionals, we're usually brought in at the very last stage when it's actually the implementation stage and all of the business requirements, all of the, the design has already been done and we're there to execute. But one of my favorite projects ever is one that we did with Nigel and the strategic architects team, where we were brought in the very start when the strategy was being delivered. And then, was there for the business case stage, so call that phase two, and then there to sort of take it through to execution and talk about the next steps. That client that we did that with was with a state government department, and we were very much consultative in our approach at the very start of that process. So again, making sure everyone's views were heard, that we were putting people at the center, so sort of that design thinking approach to strategy development. And then I guess my role as the PM was really championing people throughout every stage of the project. And what resulted was that the execution phase and some of the governance that went around execution was very smooth, because it was representative of what people had told us. And when we said change is coming, they said, bring it on. So yeah, that in that example, and it's definitely a method we use elsewhere, but if as the project team we can be involved the whole way, then we can really make sure that that is smooth sailing throughout the life of the project. And it's very collaborative, keeping the energy up, making sure people are heard, and really representing the needs of everybody involved in a project. So it's definitely one that we've proven works with Nigel and the team. So it was a great project, good outcome.
Yeah, and I agree. Definitely one of the projects Nigel and I have worked on when it came to, I guess, lessons learned. That was quite a big point that we were involved in various steps and right from the beginning. So, really being responsive to day-to-day needs and people, and yeah, great example of people first approach. It doesn't compromise technical integrity, but enhances the success of the transformation. Alrighty, so my next question: how does people first approach influence the development and implementation of digital strategies in your projects?
That is a good question. I think the best way to describe this is that we don't work in silos and don't work in a vacuum, as the saying goes. And so, as I mentioned before, it's the role of the PM, if we're involved at the front end of strategic design, to really be the voice of people who are impacted by change, as I mentioned. But you can't be the voice of those people unless you actually physically meet with them and physically go into their environment. And then that's something that we would do at the very start of a project, particularly if it's at that strategic design stage. So what that enables us to do is to really represent a broad range of stakeholders throughout the business, and we bring that into design, bring that into strategy, and kind of have that anchor of why are we doing this, what is the the benefits of the change that we're working towards, and make sure that that is reiterated again and again and again throughout the process. And I know this is something that Andrew spoke about earlier, and we've spoken about this numerous times, Andrew, about how we have to be in sync and working as a collective unit, not siloed departments delivering separate components of a project. We're stronger together, as the saying goes. So yeah, that's kind of how we bring it into the project process.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess how you, like you just mentioned then, like as yourself, not into silo, does that also mean as your team as well? So it's not just quite separate team members, like you're all sort of collaborate. It's not just the project manager, being involved with the stakeholders. It's, coming back to your team as well. And these are the risks and issues. This was raised at maybe board meeting or, wherever you are. So yeah, I think that's a good reflection too, that you do invest in your team as well as in the project.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to quickly go rogue for just a second, just to expand on that point a little bit, Arielle, because I love it. even if we just, I guess, zoom into what project delivery looks like, the traditional way of doing things is that we have project manager, maybe a coordinator that's helping them out. Maybe there's a change manager, comms, you name it. There's very siloed, distinct project roles. But as we're seeing lots of innovation, or I'm hoping that there's more innovation, but innovation in project management where there's sort of more of a coming together of those roles, but even cross, disciplines with the same humans. So if you engage people at the start of the process, that really is change management activity, and it doesn't have to be a siloed role for a change manager. It really could be part of what a project manager does in the future. Some of them do it today, but to be more of that. And so, yeah, I like that idea of being able to wear many hats if you are that bridge between technical and business teams. So be able to identify, some of the business analysis tasks that need to be done or haven't been done, PM the schedule and budget and all those wonderful things that a project manager does, also having an eye on change. And that can either be 3 different people or it could be one person bringing that all together. But yeah, the siloed way of working is no longer serving its purpose.
Yeah, definitely. So on that, my next question, I guess it's based on those that maybe are involved in the project at a later stage. Like how do you adjust your strategy to involve those so they're not coming in blind and who's who? You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We see this all the time. It even happens to our team, as I mentioned before, coming in at that project kickoff. But a whole lot of work has happened before then. And also, as I mentioned before, usually strategic thinking is done by a group of stakeholders that aren't necessarily your project governance committee when you are at that implementation stage. So most of the time we see project sponsors and even our, senior responsible owners and everyone in between kind of inheriting projects. Sometimes it's their pet project, but most of the time it's not. And they are juggling business as usual and project work. So the very, 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 very first thing that we do as a team is that we spend time talking to them, as I say, going to their environment, being present with them to really understand their motivators, their capacity, what are their concerns with this project. So just right off the bat, they feel listened to, heard, and we can also provide the context and the history of how did we get to this point. That's something that shouldn't happen once. That should keep happening as part of stakeholder management. And it sounds very simple, but it's often overlooked to sort of take that time, invest that time of bringing people on the journey with a project. And that can be people in your project team, as I mentioned, in your project committee, but it should also be everybody who's impacted by the change. Traditional change management often leaves us where we're, tacking on change at the very end of a project, but it should be throughout the process. And there's some really cool ways to do that. But yes, talk to people, listen to them, give them a channel to communicate back with you, and do that from the start. And you'll bring them on the journey quickly, and you'll also get great feedback as you go along the process.
Yeah, definitely. So regular touch points and open communication, that's really key. Yeah. Great insight, Jazz. So how can enterprise architecture support a people-centric focus while guiding projects and change initiatives?
That's a big question. I think the answer is like everything. When enterprise architecture and strategic architecture is done right, it makes project implementation such a joy. But I guess I keep mentioning it, it has to have that balance. You have to be in sync. It has to be a two-way street. So creating architecture in a silo, yes, you can do it. Yes, it will get through. But the, I guess, probability of that project being a success and delivering the benefits that you want are probably lower than if you engage people and the project team along the way. So I think there's such an opportunity for there to be more focus on enterprise architecture. I know there's lots of professionals in this space already, but consult, bring in more people, bring in your project managers, and they'll give you a reality of what's going to work, what's going to stick, what's going to land with the project team in the business as well. And that may also inform things such as what's in the business case and what needs to be presented to a committee. So lots of consultation, lots of talking to people, so sort of people first everywhere.
Yeah, Jazz, I was just going to jump in there as well because you just mentioned, I suppose, enterprise architecture is my sort of area as well, and the strategic architecture side. And you mentioned that project kickoff, and that's the big challenge of when you have that project kickoff. And it's funny because I was in a project kickoff recently, and from an architecture point of view, I was thinking, oh, God, this is crazy because what happened was there was this onboarding pack, right? And it had a list of documents, right? This so it had a list, and you know what projects are like. You don't have the time to look at probably, I reckon in total would have been about 400 or 500 pages. You don't have the time to do all of that. So when, yeah, so I wrote down what you said then. You said context and history. So I reckon that's where the enterprise architect can help, and that's that strategic architecture approach. We're sort of helping in there, and you heard Wendy talk about business architectures for everyone as well. I reckon, and we're not doing our job very well if we don't induct the project team quickly and easily, and provide them the context because they don't need to necessarily look at 400 pages. They may need to go and get that detail when they're doing the project. There might be an initiative brief or something that they need to look at. But what they need to know is what are we trying to achieve? What's the what's the strategic objectives? What are we trying to do, and what are all the stakeholders, like on a one page, like what Andrew was talking about, like that sort of context is key. And yeah, like I said, it happened to me the other day, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, what am I going to start with? What do I read first? I was thinking, oh no, this is going to be challenging. We've got all these things we've got to do in the next couple of weeks. How are we going to do it? And I was freaking out a bit, and yeah, and I think you can really help start projects with that. And another thing that we do, we got a course on is like data literacy and digital literacy and that sort of stuff. Can we all start on the same basis? We manage our records this way. We put our information here. We follow this governance, and I know you're a big believer in governance as well. It is really key. So I think you hit the nail on the head with that a
Yeah.
couple of times. And, the Arielle's question was appropriate because I think, yeah, enterprise architects can really help at that
Yeah,
stage.
definitely. I'll just expand on that a little bit, Nige. So there are a couple of tools that we would use after we've spoken to everyone. So that's kind of week one of a project. But week two is we do two really important documents. One is a project charter, and that's a one pager where we're all clear on what are we doing, when are we doing it. And it's not specific to enterprise architecture, but it's specific for everyone to be on the same page and bring people on the journey. The second thing that we do, when we're doing this more and more and more as we do projects, are agreed ways of working between the teams. So being very clear on roles and responsibilities, meeting cadence, actions, all those traditional project things, but again, bringing people on the same page. To your point of, would it be amazing for a project lead or a project manager to have a one-page overview? As Andrew mentioned, as they are in the kickoff phase of project, 100%. I am often asked if to run a technical project, do you need to be a technical PM? To a degree, yes. But my answer is often just enough to be dangerous. And what I mean by that in the nicest way possible is a PM is most effective when they really do understand the design. They understand the purpose of the design. They understand what it's looking to achieve, and then they can champion that in the business. And often PM is in a more fortunate position to do that potentially than a technical team. We're in more forums. We've got more, or a seat at many more tables. So if we're consistent with what we're trying to achieve, then we can consistently spread that message on, and we do the same from a project perspective. So yes, please send the one pages. That would be awesome.
Yeah, and just on that, Jazz, you mentioned that PM don't necessarily have to have the technical background, but some knowledge. So I like to think myself as this analogy, like an Uber driver. You know, I can get you to A to B, but I don't know how to build the car. So that's where I try to think. I know enough, but don't ask me those in-depth coding, technical, Python, whatever. So yeah, I understand that.
I like that analogy.
Yeah, yeah. Get you from A to B. I guess we might have time for another question.
Yep.
Awesome. Sorry. Where am I? Based on, I guess, your experience, Jazz, the key people for lessons you've learned from managing digital transfer projects. Do you have any key points that you've really, I know we've talked in depth about it, but any key points or messages when it comes to lessons learned?
Yeah, we've touched on a bit of this already, but just to reiterate, as I guess my final hurrah is involve people early and consistently. Don't do it because you have to, do it because you want to. The best ideas often come from the areas that you least expect them to. So you don't necessarily have to do it, but make sure that's in your scope. See if there's a business person who can help you with this, or ask really direct feedback to your project team if you are doing design. And if you can, as I say, go into their environment, watch people in their natural habitat, talk to them, because then not only will it influence your design, it'll be much better, it'll be more fit for purpose, but you've also just created a change champion without meaning to as you go through this journey. And that can only be a good thing for those people, for the people that are responsible for them, and for the implementation on a whole. We do know there's a big scary statistic that I'm sure lots of people know, that 70% of projects fail. There are many reasons for that. But I think stakeholder management and bringing people on the journey plays a huge, huge role in that. So do engage people, bring them in early, get their feedback, be open to their feedback, don't be closed. Really have that design thinking approach as you are creating things, and that'll really give you that, what we say, 360-degree view of what do the leaders want, what do we think is our professional opinion, and what's actually going to land, and your design will be schmick. It'll be great.
Wonderful. No, thanks for the insight, Jazz. I wanted to mention quickly as well that you're on the judging panel for PMI Queensland's award night. So that's amazing. Congratulations. Hopefully our Brisbane friends, if you're around, I think it's in a couple of weeks, on Thursday 25th. But maybe you can catch Jazz there. Some networking opportunities there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Judging's already done. So yes, 25th, the winners will be announced. Very excited to see that. But also, if you are interested, as I mentioned earlier, my team are really starting to narrow in on what does the future of project management look like. We're currently getting some feedback and doing some research. So if you have some strong opinions, please let us know. But it's high time we bring this people first approach as the status quo, not as as we say, an outlier way of doing things. So please, yeah, send through any feedback you might have.
Amazing. Thanks, Jazz.
Awesome. Thank you so much, ladies. What a beautiful session. Thank you, Jazz. Thank you, Arielle. Awesome insights.